Sunday.
Good evening, Doc Jazz.
Evening. Hello.
Good evening, Doc Jazz.
Oh, bakit lagi kang ganyan?
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Good evening. So we welcome our
Mhm.
participants, are the couples and the family members of Verbum Day Missionary Family of Cagayan de Oro and Cebu communities. So good evening. Also present with us are some of the personnel. So I think Bagor Indonesia Nakano, personnel of the Philippine National Police. Some of them are also present with us tonight. And we are also online through YouTube. So good evening also to our viewers online. So thank you for attending this webinar. So to start with, uh, good evening to our participants as well as aside from that, we also have the staff of the DOH-TRC Cebu present with us tonight. So welcome to tonight's webinar on drug abuse prevention and family members. So I am Mary Antoinette Katingov, a health program officer here at DOH-TRC Cebu, and I will be your MC for this evening. So before we officially commence the seminar, so we request everybody to please settle down. So as we start the program with an invocation to be followed by the singing of the national anthem. So we request, uh, so may we request to play the uh, invocation, sir, and the doc.
Is it enough just to be good, to follow orders and bear shirts? Is it enough to be so cruel? Is it enough just to wait for life to happen as it may? Is it enough to sit and stay? Look at you now. Are you alright with what you see? This ain't what it's supposed to be. Speak my word with your life. Follow me, yes, it's alright. I'm your way, your truth, your life. Speak my word with your life. Follow me, yes, it's alright. I'm your way, your truth, your life. Oh, speak my word. Is it enough not to care just because you are not there? Is it enough to be far and safe? Is it enough to live with ease and not give a damn to others' needs? Is it enough to mind your own? Look around you now. Are you alright with what you see? Is it what it's supposed to be? Speak my word and touch their lives. Free them now, yes, it's alright. I'm their way, their truth, their life. right with what you say. This ain't what it's supposed to be. Oh, 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 oh. Speak my word with your life. Follow me, yes, it's alright. I'm your way, your truth, your life. Speak my word, touch your lives. Freedom now, yes, it's alright. I'm the way, the truth, the life. Oh, speak my word. Speak my word. Speak my word. Speak my word.
Okay, so to kick off tonight's program, we are pleased to have with us our very own Chief of Hospital of the DOH Treatment and Rehabilitation Center Cebu for Women, Dr. Jasmine P. Peralta, to deliver her opening remarks. Good evening, Doc.
Sorry, hindi ko ma-open yung video ko. Nakalagay dito, you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. Ayan, okay.
Okay na po.
Okay na. Okay, thank you. So, a pleasant good evening to everyone. Can you hear me?
Good evening po, Doc.
Okay, Mary, you can hear me na?
Yes po. Yes po.
So, maayong gabi ba? Maayong gabi. Sa atong kanan. So, good evening, everyone. Good evening to my Cebu TRC family and also to the Verbum Day Missionary family in Cebu and Cagayan de Oro. So tonight we'll be having again this advocacy activity led by the Advocacy and Education team, led by Dr. Jane Giselle. And we will talk about tonight the drug abuse prevention in the family. So we all know that drug abuse among a family member is actually a disease not only of the person affected or the person who used drugs, but it is actually a disease of the whole family. So the whole family is affected because we know that addiction creates interpersonal problems or conflicts for all the family members. So sa ating mga magulang, for us parents or the significant others in the family, we just have to ask our children or kung kapatid man sila or family member, ano ba dapat? Put addiction first or family first? So, but during the time na affected siguro ang family member, they do not have that discernment that we just have to really do the prevention because prevention is better than cure, right? So, as we all know that the Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002 in the Article 4 of Section 41 of the Republic Act 9165, there is a section in there wherein there is the involvement of the family. So the family being the basic unit of our society in the Philippines shall be primarily responsible for the education and giving awareness of the whole family on the ill effects of the dangerous drugs. And we also have to do the close monitoring of the family members who may be susceptible to drug use. So maybe tonight, just to share, maybe we just have to remember what is a family. So for us to have be able to prevent drug addiction in the family, we just have probably to think about FAMILY. So probably for F, we should maintain a friendly conversation or communication with our children or family members. And A, we should maintain activities that keeps the family members together, connected, knitted together, despite the current situation in the country wherein we have this pandemic, where we may have our own work to do far from the area where our family members are actually working. And M, there must be mutual support for each other in all aspects, physical, emotional, financial, and spiritual. And I, we should always inspire our family members. And L, in the family, probably we have to maintain that love, we have to listen, and we have to laugh together. And why? We yearn together as one happy family. So as one whole family, the basic unit in the community, we as family members should really do the prevention early on in the family. So as parents, we must be role models to our children. But of course, sabi nga natin, we don't really, hindi natin hawak ang buhay ng mga kapamilya natin. But again, we just try to inculcate in their minds early on when they are still young, the ill effects of drugs, what happens when they do drugs. So ang tanong natin, addiction first or family first? It must be family first because the family is very important. So with that, I hope tonight everyone in the attendees in this advocacy program or the program of the DOH will be able to actually gain some knowledge and information on how best we can prevent drug abuse in our family. With that, thank you so much to the Verbum Day community in Cebu and in Cagayan de Oro. We look forward to future endeavors with you, partnership, and how best we can really stop or halt the occurrence of drug abuse in our country. Thank you so much, and daghang salamat sa atong tanan. Thank you, and God bless everyone.
Thank you again, Doc Jazz, for that highly informative opening po, and thank you for spending your Sunday night with us. So truly, family is vital in drug prevention. So before we get started, so I'd like to go over some few things. So we request everyone to please mute your microphone while our speakers are presenting so that we can hear them clearly. So if you have questions for our speakers, we suggest for you to take note of this, as there will be a question and answer portion after all the speakers are done presenting. So our program for this evening will have two parts. So first, there will be a discussion about drug addiction and family. And second, all about knowing the roles of family in drug prevention. So to start with, so may I introduce our first speaker. She is a graduate of medical technology at the Veles College. I earned her Doctor of Medicine at Cebu Institute of Medicine, granted the title Certified Family Physician by the Philippine Academy of Family Physicians. She is also a regular member of the Philippine College of Addiction Medicine. Currently, she is in her 2 years acting as a medical officer here in DOH-TRC Cebu. So everyone, a virtual round of applause to Dr. Zenaida Iwican Dingron. Good evening, Doc.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to apologize for my video. I'm sorry I cannot play my video. So It just appears like a blur. So
Yes, Doc.
I'll just go ahead and stop the video so that at least I have my picture. Okay, so
Okay, Doc.
allow me to start screen share.
Pastor Ron, susunod po natin katanungan, ano po ang inyong payo sa mga taong pakiramdam nila ay iniiwan na sila ng mga tao sa paligid nila, lalo na po ang Diyos? Tulad ng ating napag-usapan sa
Okay, can everyone see my my slide?
tayo ng Diyos,
Yes, Doc, but nice sound sa background.
not dependent on our feelings. It is
Okay,
dependent
I don't know where the sound comes from. Is it mine? Okay, wala na.
Yes, Doc. Ako, nawala na siya, Doc.
Sige. All right, so good evening to each and everyone. I believe that it is not a coincidence that we meet tonight with this specialized topic of drug dependency, commonly known as drug addiction in relation to the family. So to start with, I would like to share to you statistics regarding drug dependency in the family. Okay. So according to the latest census as of 2015, one drug user belongs to a family of 4 members because the average number of family members in one household is 4. So if drug dependency affects the family, automatically the repercussions of one person addicted to drugs is being carried or suffered by 4 people. And considering the population of the Central Visayas alone, which is 6,041,903 as of last year, 2020, then it goes to say that there are around 24 million people suffering in one way or another just because of one person who fall prey to drugs. The statistics were taken from the Commission on Population of the Philippines. So if we think of the nation, Philippines, as of 2020, the population is estimated at 109,581,078 people at mid-year, according to the United Nations data. This would turn out for the Philippines alone that we have a total of 440 million people suffering from direct and indirect side effects of drug dependency. This is the gravity of affected people with just one drug dependent. And we know that in the Philippines, we have a lot of drug dependence. And that is why, as much as we can, we try to create awareness of this global phenomenon, hoping that this knowledge can make a difference to the smallest unit of society, the family. And so the topics that we will touch on today are the following: the factors that undermine family stability, causing a person to fall into drugs or drug use, the theory of ego fatigue, the 6 most common or most serious effects of drug addiction, addiction and family roles, dealing with addiction in the family, and lastly, the theories of drug addiction. So addiction does not kill the addict alone. It kills the family, the kids, and the people who try to help. And these are the factors that undermine family stability. It is presented in an acronym, these tiers. First, letter D. It is the disintegration of the family. It refers to the increasing fragility of marriage, like divorce, separation, annulment. We usually hear from couple before they separate, "Oh, you broke my heart." And then they separate. The next is the substance abuse, which is the core of our discussion for tonight. Just for definition, It refers to the continued use of substances that affect the way a user functions physically and socially. Next is the letter P, parental absenteeism. So most parents decide to go abroad, to find more money to support the family. And so because one reason of that, why they go abroad, is because of the diminishing opportunities for them to work here in the Philippines. And well, the absence of parents actually destroys or threatens the solidarity of the family. For letter E, economic difficulties, when parents go abroad, it's because of money. And money is indeed the most important thing in the family. But we need to admit that money is also one of the biggest challenges being faced by many families today, causing malnourished children, early employment of children to augment the family income, as well as finding children and young people in the streets exposed to all kinds of hazards, and that includes drugs. Next is letter A, the absence of family goals and deteriorating values. So the absence of values and goals to guide family decisions and activities can cause members to lose sight of what is truly worthwhile. It influences a person's most important decisions about friends, sexual relationship, family education, work, and money. Failure of parents to recognize a higher meaning and purpose of the family can lead to children being materialistic, wanting instant gratification, and seeking pleasure as life's chief goals. To contrast what is a family goal and individual goal, well, a family goal example would be to go to church together and eat out afterwards. There's family partnerships, sharing of family resources like time and attention, as well as availability. Individual goal example would be to spend quality time with a girlfriend or the boyfriend, or even to practice for a basketball or a volleyball tournament instead of staying with the family. So next is the R, the rising incidence of early sexual involvement and teenage pregnancy. This refers to engaging in some form of sexual encounter or intercourse at an early age, leading to a wasted life, meaning our children will grow up with a weak self-image. We encounter adolescence or teenage pregnancy. And then because of the early encounter or early sexual intercourse, there will also be cases of sexually transmitted infections, resulting to teen marriage. So we will hear of young people saying, I got married at 16 years old or 17 years old. And then in the process, there will be emotional wounds and disrupted goals. Lastly, letter S for the these pairs, it is the strong negative influence of media on the family. So this is when our busy parents come home and they come home very tired. They just want to rest and relax. So they allow the media to be the babysitter. The media will now take place of the busy parents' role. Now, because of the media, the interpersonal relationship in the family seems to have been neglected. Family ties that used to be very close are being threatened. And all of these together undermines family stability. Now, there is wisdom to this quote that addiction is a special kind of hell. It takes the soul of the addict and breaks the hearts of everyone who loves them. In other words, those were the long-term effects of the power of addiction and the addiction to power. It is very relevant to be able to understand these two ideas regarding drug addiction in the context of family. So by definition, drug addiction is a chronic relapsing brain disease characterized by a compulsive drug seeking and use despite harmful and negative consequences, according to the National Institute of Drug Abuse. So the important points to remember are, drug addiction is anything that causes significant changes in the brain, long term. And that change makes you act with compulsion, with less to no logic at all. And after doing it for some time, it causes harmful and negative consequences. It encompasses a lot of habits turned into addiction. It could be substances. It could be prohibited drugs or non-prohibited drugs like coffee, alcohol, smoking. It includes gambling or even eating. We have eating addictions or too much time on gadgets. More on gadgets and not on human interactions, family interactions. So what is the power of addiction that attracts or charms young and old people alike? Well, the power of drug addiction refers to the degree of dopamine addiction. Dopamine is the key neurotransmitter that was released to make you feel happy or fulfilled in what you are doing. Thus, you tend to repeat that wonderful or joyous or amazing experience. Otherwise, dopamine can make you create a memory stamp so that when you keep on doing what makes you feel joyful or fulfilled, it masks the feeling of pain, frustration, and disappointment temporarily. And for drug dependence, comfort or finding a temporary fix of an internal conflict can be found in a positive or a negative distraction. These are the examples. Our negative distractions would be alcohol, drugs, sex, or violence. Our positive distractions would be friends, family, and fellowship. Okay, so I mentioned earlier about the reward system. This is a normal physiologic system that exists in our body to serve as a survival tool. When a person discovers something that generates the feeling of pleasure, joy, and happiness, like drugs or love, then the reward system of the brain will be activated. Otherwise known as the reward circuit, includes the brain stem, basal ganglia, and the cerebrum. Okay, so if we focus on this picture, let us find the words or the letters VTA. The VTA stands for the ventral tegmental area, and this is where the dopamine was manufactured or synthesized. It is located in the midbrain on top of the brainstem. It is released when you smell the cake from the oven, saw the cake on the table, for example, if you love cakes, and tasted the cake that was lovingly offered to you. Dopamine then sends the signal to your nucleus accumbens. And your nucleus accumbens is located in the striatal area. It is part of the extended amygdala as part of the basal ganglia. So the second major component of the reward system. Our nucleus accumbens motivates and focuses. What does it motivate and focus? It motivates and focuses emotions or strong desires. This area of the brain is very instrumental in the augmentation of something, someone, or some experience that is considered happy, rewarding, and wonderful, like a piece of cake, a lovely lady, or an attractive man. or winning a sports competition. And of course, not to forget, the first high in taking drugs. Dopamine will further be communicated to the hippocampal area. So it's down here in the right side, hippocampus, that is simply known as the memory area of the brain, or the storage of our memories. So especially desirable, happy memories. And lastly, let's transfer our attention to the other side of the screen, the frontal cortex, colored blue. This is the cerebrum, the cerebral area. And this is where the prefrontal cortex is found. The prefrontal cortex is located in this area, the cerebral area, and it is responsible for the cognitive functions of the brain. So when we say cognitive functions, it includes thinking, understanding, and making decisions, to name a few. This area of the brain is like the bridge of the ship or a steering wheel of the car. So it's the one who will decide where do we go, right or left, or just go ahead and move forward. Growing up, our amygdala in the hypothalamic area develops first, okay, manifesting the immature actions or decisions of a child. During adulthood, our prefrontal cortex is fully developed, and that is around the age of 20 to 25 onwards. So prefrontal cortex is supposedly the reliable area in making correct decisions depending on the values that we have accumulated while growing up, what our family values are. So in terms of drug addiction or dependency, the reward system has been hijacked, and there is a break in the communication of your nucleus accumbens that motivates and focuses to your prefrontal cortex, who decides and make decisions and think and understands before it makes decisions. There is an improper decision making done by prefrontal cortex when you are addicted. In short, the brain of an addicted person gets stuck in the area of motivation and focus and augmentation of the happy experience without being weighed according to the morality code, whether it is right or wrong, simply because the cognitive area of the brain has been cut off. And when our brain's reward system is hijacked, it means that the natural ways or experiences that releases dopamine, like eating cake or winning a competition, is replaced with smoking, drinking alcohol, or even snorting or injecting prohibited substances. Okay, so a study has been done and the effects of drugs on dopamine release has been plotted. The x-axis is the time after the substance has been taken or done. The y-axis is the percent of dopamine that was released after the exposure. We see here the percent of dopamine released when we eat, because food is a happy experience, especially when we are hungry. So it shows here in the y-axis that whenever we eat, we become happy because of the dopamine release that reaches 150%. In contrast to when a person takes substances. So there is a comparison between amphetamine, cocaine, nicotine, and morphine. So let us first look at amphetamine. So before an hour reaches after taking shabu, dopamine release reaches to a neurotoxic level of 1,000%. And that's why it is very addictive. And that's why it destroys the brain, because it is neurotoxic. That level is neurotoxic. Compared to cocaine, almost an hour and 30 minutes, it only releases dopamine of 300 plus, less than 400. Well, that's more than the food. So it's still addictive, and our brain still interprets it as something that is rewarding and joyous even. Nicotine, slightly lower, 200 plus. less than 250, and morphine is just a little bit higher than food. So again, the power of drug addiction is more on the dopamine, or the percent of dopamine that is released by the ventral tegmental area. The more addicted a drug user will become, the more dopamine is released, the more addicted a drug user will become, and the more neurotoxic. Now, going to the ill effects of drug addiction. A person that is already very dependent cannot deny its side effects. There will be definitive signs or typical signs that are manifested, like, for example, bloodshot eyes, methamphetamine mouth, injection marks, especially for those who are using injectables. And there are so much more, like becoming skin and bones because of the lack of the loss of appetite and the lack of sleep. Furthermore, there will be mental health problems. It can start to manifest as a simple depression and apathy, up to a substance-induced or psychosis, even schizophrenia. So mabuang, no? So some of the addicts or drug dependents will end up in a mental rehabilitation center. There will also be medical problems like HIV, and hepatitis would be more common on dependents that are using injectables. Then there will be cardiac problems and pulmonary problems like tuberculosis and extrapulmonary problems like TB lymphadenitis. Again, there will be more problems. There will be career problems because of the lack of focus, and relationship problems because of the constant need to use the addictive substance, neglecting loved ones, friends, and even relatives. But there is what we call addiction to power as well. It refers to the simple desires that turn into obsessions. An example would be that of a little kid who wants the parents' attention and earned straight A's in school, turned into a drug dependent because it is when his parents take that time out from work and give full attention to him. Only when he went into drug use that he got the attention. So there is that kind of hunger within that cannot seem to be satisfied. The feeling of control, recognition, and fame is beyond enticing. These kind of people turn to drugs to experience a sense of control and recognition. There is some degree of fame and respect that they experience when under the influence of an euphoric substance like shabu, and people around them adjust to him and his demands. So that's the feeling of control. Now let us try to understand what is it. What does it mean when we say ego fatigue or ego depletion? This theory was first investigated by a social psychologist, Roy Baumeister. And this may result in an input suggesting fatigue in the believer who has recently expended willpower. Let us take, for example, a patient that is diagnosed to have diabetes. Diabetic patients' common complaint is that they cannot hold back in not eating sweets. So the more that the doctor says do not eat sweets like cake, ice cream, candies, the more that they want it. And this is exactly the mechanics of what an ego fatigue is. Holding back an action by sheer willpower is tiring and will eventually be depleted. So in the book of James, in the Bible, chapter 1, verses 14 to 15, it says that sin is birthed, or it originates from our own evil desire. It might not be evil, an evil desire to eat sweets, but it can cause physical problems or harmful consequences in the future. So, in a way, if we do not know or we do not internalize the reason or the logic behind a certain action, like continually saying no to the lure of drugs, then we are most likely to experience ego fatigue or ego depletion and end up still using it. So that is actually the first phase of addiction, and that is abstinence. So this is actually the 6 phases of addiction, and ego fatigue is mostly experienced in the first phase, which is abstinence. So desire can be repressed in case of neural pathways in the brain. So if the desire is still strongly entrenched, then it would still be back. And when it comes back, then you go down to the next phase of addiction, which is experimentation. You will tell yourself, nobody will know anyway. So I will just try so that I will not die ignorant. So whenever you have that logic, then it most likely will go to the other phases of addiction until you reach the 6th stage, which is dependency. So once you are a drug dependent, there will be serious effects that will happen. There are serious effects that will happen. And just for tonight, we will discuss 6. So studies show, first one is the impact on children. Studies show that 1 in 5 children grow up with a parent who abuses drugs or alcohol. So if a parent is battling an addiction or substance abuse problem, the effects of that disorder are more than likely going to play a role in the child's development. This is especially serious in single parent households where the children have no one else to turn to. When a parent has an addiction, they will be too busy looking for and using their substance of choice, which distract them from their responsibilities. As a result, they won't meet the needs of their child. This irresponsibility ranges from not taking care of basic needs, such as providing meals and keeping the child clean, to secondary needs like ensuring their child is getting an education and social life. Moreover, there is a correlation between addiction and an increased risk of child abuse. Research has revealed that abused children have a higher chance of getting into substance use and addiction later in life. Even if the child does not end up using substances, growing up in such an environment will compromise their emotional and mental health. This will impact their self-confidence, their health, and social development. Second is the loss of trust. Addicts are not likely to follow through on their agreements or promises, and this causes further strain in their relationships. It's worth noting, however, that most addicts usually mean to honor their commitments, but the effects of the substances make them unable to. Thus, if they're in a relationship, their significant other is going to be frustrated due to the addict's inability to meet their obligations. And it's a vicious cycle. The third one is the increased stress. So in the throes of their addiction, the addict is likely going to leave all the responsibilities to their partner. The partner, therefore, becomes an enabler. So the enabler will take care of all the bills, they will make decisions, they will raise the kids, they will clean up after the addict, and the addict is just going to enjoy the things that the enabler is doing for them. So this exposes them to an elevated risk of contracting stress-induced conditions such as high blood pressure and anxiety. In addition, people who bottle up their stress are more likely to explode and unleash their emotions all at once. This can cause even more stress and discomfort among family members. Okay, moving on. There will be financial problems as well. And I think that makes sense because the addict will just have to think of when will be their next fix. So they will just have to ask and ask for money, being irresponsible that the money needs to be used in other things as well, like paying for bills. There will also be physical and emotional abuse. Again, because if the addict does not get what they want, they will just have to get it by force or by violence. It also creates a lot of fear and confusion since there's violence and since he is no longer doing his duties and responsibilities in the house. All right, so now it would be very interesting to see if we are among one of the roles here mentioned in the field of addiction. So let's see. We'll start with the addict. Okay, the addict has a central role of the family. Substances come first in the addict's life, and as a result, he or she ends up hurting, manipulating, and lying to their loved ones and family members. They tend to blame others for their problems and end up isolating themselves from the people who care about them the most. So many addicts don't want to stop using, and this can cause resentment and anger among family members. And the enabler, as mentioned earlier, will take care of the responsibilities of the addict to the extent of providing money for drugs or alcohol to appease him or her. This behavior masks the enabler's inner feelings of betrayal, anger, and hurt which the addict has caused. Now, the hero, which is usually the oldest child, is an overachiever who is hardworking and typically earns straight A's in school. The hero acts like this to cover up the guilt, inadequacy, anxiety, and stress that they are feeling inside. They also try to convey a sense of normalcy in the family and feel the need to take on more and more responsibility. Performing at this level can put a great deal of stress on the hero, resulting in high anxiety. The rebellious member of the family is usually the scapegoat, and the scapegoat is a child who acts out and frequently misbehaves to distract themselves from the turmoil that is going on in their house. Scapegoats end up getting blamed for the family problems, and they often resent the addict for putting them in this position. As scapegoats get older, they will likely get in trouble with the law. Women tend to engage in risky sexual behavior, and men tend to become physically abusive towards their own families. Now, the mascot is also known as the class clown. He is a source of comedic relief within the family. When the addict is causing distress and discomfort in the household, the mascot can be counted on to provide a laugh. He or she will often sacrifice their own needs to supply the humor needed for everyone to cope. When they get older, mascots will likely self-medicate with alcohol or drugs to escape from their childhood trauma. Finally, the lost child has difficulty interacting with others and has underdeveloped social skills. Usually, this is the middle or the youngest child. The lost child is withdrawn and tends to spend time alone. They engage in fantasy play to distract themselves from their troublesome home lives. And as they get older, they have trouble forming relationships and put off making important decisions. So knowing all that, where are we? So how to deal with addiction in the family? Ideally, okay. Okay, how to deal with the addiction in the family? First of all, we need to calm down. When we know that someone in the family or a family member is having an addiction, we need to calm down first, because it is when you remain calm and at ease that you can listen. So next is to listen and try to understand your child's reason or perspective in taking drugs. Then make the issue a family matter. Make it known. So make it known from the start, because it is actually a thing that all of the members of the family will have to discuss. Next is to encourage your child to get help, because it can be done. It can be done without help. Then it would, if encourage your child to get help, because you see, if it can be done without help, then it would not have reached to the point of dependency. So ideally, the family can go through a family counseling session. And if everything is still beyond control, contact a medical specialist and your nearest rehabilitation center. So the law for drug addiction is the Republic Act 9165, Article 4, Section 41 will talk about the family. So what is RA 9165? It is the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002, and Section 41 mandates the involvement of the family in the enforcement of the said act. The law further states that the family, being the basic unit of the Filipino society, shall be primarily responsible for the education and awareness of the members of the family on the ill effects of the dangerous drugs, and is responsible for close monitoring of family members who may be susceptible to drug abuse. And attending webinars like this creates awareness in terms of information regarding addiction, the role of the family, the ill effect of addiction, otherwise specifically mentioned as the harmful and negative consequences. And also it is here that we will know the rehabilitation centers that are near our location. Okay, we are almost done. So as we come to a close, there is a nagging question on why is it that not everyone who uses drugs become addicted? And the answers include the genes, the environment, and the brain development. And these are the theories surrounding that answer. So NIDA, or the National Institute of Drug Abuse, would say that it is a medical problem. Thus, drug dependents need to be admitted and treated because it is a chronic relapsing disease. The academic side would say it is a part of the learning process that can eventually be outgrown, wherein some people just cannot learn and end up in a tragic outcome, especially those without any or less family support. They will either end up in the mental rehabilitation center, in prison, or they will die young. Okay. In a social perspective, it is all about willpower, which we have talked a little bit earlier about the ego fatigue theory. And lastly, in a biological perspective, it is a genetic problem, wherein the American Psychological Association outlined research indicating a genetic basis for addiction. As much as 60% of a person's predisposition to addiction stems from their genetic makeup. In fact, children of addicts are 25% more likely to become addicts themselves. So drug dependency is indeed a family problem. The treatment depends more on the individual or individualized treatment rather than on the theory or a rigidly structured program, because the drug use came first before the theories were developed. So treatment is most effective when the whole family is involved. When everything has been deliberated and decided as a family, the elements of family, love and understanding, wrapped with fervent prayers, can really make a world of difference. And that is the end of my lecture. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much again, Doc Zen, for that enlightening discussion. So thank you, Doc. So it is nice that we know the importance of knowing the factors that undermine family stability and also the consequences of drug use. So again, informing our participants that if you have questions for our speakers, we suggest for you to take note of this, as there will be a question and answer portion after the presentation of our second speaker. Okay, and that's the end of our first part of the program. So moving on, so our next speaker is a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Social Work at Mandawi City College. She is also a registered social worker and acted as a social worker for almost a year here in rehab. Now she functions as a health program officer. So our next speaker also spent a lot of sleepless nights and did countless of practice to perfect her presentation. So it's your time to shine, ma'am. So a virtual round of applause to Miss Daphne Camille Alimpuos. Good evening, Ma'am Daph.
So, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Ma'am Mary, sa imong
Good
kuyang
evening,
mga introduction. So, good evening. Again, I am Daphne Camille. So, I'm employed as a health program officer here at the OHTRC Cebu. So, before I will start, I would like to thank everyone for staying and giving your active participation through though late na gyud kaayo karon. So, thank you, Doc Jane and team for organizing this webinar, Ma'am Mary, our graceful moderator, and Doc Jazz, no, our ever supportive COH here sa DOHTRC Cebu na ni sabay gyud nato karong gabi una. So, sige. Okay na, Doc Jane.
Go, Ma'am Dav.
Wala pa na ako ang Doc nag-present na sa screen, Doc. Okay. So, our topic for this evening is the role of family in drug abuse prevention. So, unsa man gyud di ay ang mga katungdanan, no, ang papel sa pamilya para sa kanang pag-prevent sa pag-prevent nga na ay drug abuse prevention sa ato ang family. So, atong itakol karong gabi una ang mga papel sa ato ang pamilya para pag-prevent aning drug abuse. Okay, Doc? So, ang ato ang topic di ay karon mao ni siya. So, ato ang hisgutan karon family. So, unsa man di ang family? What is family? Then, family dynamics. Unsa man ang family dynamics? Then, why is adolescence a crucial part of one's life? So, nganong importante gyud nga mahibaw-an nato ang kanang ang adolescence nga crucial man di na siya nga part sa ato ang life. And then, how drug addiction affects the families. Unsay epekto aning drug addict di ay sa pamilya. Though na-discuss man naman to ganihan ni Doc Zen. So, nalang ko i-add nga mga gamay na input. Then, the role of parents in drug abuse prevention. Kani, importante kay ni nga atong mahibaw-an. No? Unsay kanang kanang gahom sa ginikanan nga dili mahiagom sa illegal nga droga ang atong mga anak. And then, accredited drug rehab facilities in Cebu and CDO. So if nay kanang makabantay mo nga nanay mga members of the family ninyo or mga kailang nga naanay signs nga katong gipakita ni Doc Zen ganiha, so asa man di ay ta dapat mo refer. Okay, next please, Doc. Doc. Okay. So, family. family. So it is the basic unit in society, traditionally consisting of parents rearing their children. So unsa man din ang family, no? So mauna daw siya ang basic unit sa society, traditionally consisting of two parents. So mama, papa, ug anak. Excuse me. So mo ni siya ang basic unit sa society, composed, di ba, ang community is composed of group of family members. So kaning family mao daw ni siya ang ugat nga nag-compose nga mahimo tang usa ka community, no? It is a group of two or more persons related by birth, marriage, or adoption residing together. So as you can see, no, nakita ninyo diha sa screen. So duha ka picture. So the first one is kaning picture is kanang mga common types of family diri sa ato ang kanang nasod. So the first one kaning naay family, nagkubot og family, is the nuclear family. So it is composed of a parent and children. So mo na siya ang basic unit yun. And then the other one is the extended, mo na common sa diri sa ato sa Pilipinas. So it is composed of mama, papa, anak, mga auntie, kuya, so ing anak, no? So kanang kuan siya kanang common kay ni duha nga types of family members diri sa Pilipinas, no? So another definition daw of family is it is life's greatest blessing. So it is the source of our unconditional love. So it is the source of our unconditional love. So life begins and love never. A family where life begins and love never ends. So yeah. So next, Doc, please. So what is family dynamic? So family dynamic, it refers to the patterns of interactions among relatives, their roles and relationships, and the various factors that shape their interaction. No? So family members rely on each other for emotional, physical, and economic support. So they are the one of the primary source of stress, security relationship. So diri na to mga kanang murag family gyud is our kanang main source of support system mo na nga that is why they are our primary source also of relationship security or stress. So we can't deny the fact that usahay mas stress gyud sa to ang family. So there are two types of stress, no? The eustress and the distress. So what is eustress? So unsa man ning eustress? Eustress is the positive type of stress that enhance our functioning. So for example, sa maning positive type of stress nga maka-enhance ato ang functioning. So practicing how to cook. So your child wants to eat chicken curry, then you don't know how to cook chicken curry. So mas stress ka, you feel stressed because you don't know how to cook, but you will watch on YouTube ways how to cook chicken curry, then mao na nga kanang makabaw na kay masatisfy na ang craving sa imuhang anak. So na-stress ka but naka-gain ka og mga learnings, no? Mo na siya ang positive type of stress or eustress. And the distress, the negative type of stress, no? Na stress ka kay badlongon imuhang bana or your imuhang partner, no? Na stress ka kay kanang imong anak kay wala nagtarong og eskwela, no? So mo na siya ang kanang negative type of stress. So kani siya So why is adolescence man a crucial part of one's life, no? So atong hisgutan, why kanang nganong important man nga ato ang mahatagan og guidance and parental care as early as pila ilang edad ang ato ang mga anak. So adolescence is a period of transition between childhood and adulthood. So in between childhood and adulthood, it is considered as a crucial stage in human life that needs utmost parental care, guidance, and empathy. Why? It is because it is the time when young people begin to take on adult roles, no? It is very vital period that will determine how a person will view and interact with the world as an adult. So adolescence is a time of great change and challenge. And parents need to be prepared with the tools to understand and explain these changes to their children. So later on, we will discuss with you what are the tools, no, para ma-prevent ang kanang, para mag-guide nato ang ato ang anak into a better future and of having a or becoming a better citizen. Sorry. Okay, next, Doc. So, how drug addiction affects the family, no? So, na-discuss na to ni Doc Zen ganina. So, again, mo adang pud ko gamay na input. So, drug addiction affects, excuse me, Doc, pwede balik sa, okay. So, drug addiction affects the family. No? Addiction affects the entire family in many ways: relationship, finances, safety, and more at all risk. These are the only common common nga ka ng mga factors nga maapektuhan if naay addict sa family. So there are a lot more, no? So ato i-discuss karon is ang common lang nga mga kanang effects sa family. So next, Doc, please. So relationships, no? Addiction strains relationship no matter which person in the family has the problem. No? So, daghan kaayog mga factors nga mahimo if kanang maapektuhan na ang relationship. One of which are the family breakup, separations, and estrangements, and endings of a relationship. So these are one of the factors na atong maagian if naay addict sa ato ang family. So next, Doc. So how addiction affects the children? Do na discuss na ni ganiha. So add na kog input, no? Children live with an addicted parent grow up in an unpredictable environment. Unpredictable meaning we don't know what will happen. We can't predict what will happen. Why? Because the mind of a drug addict is also unpredictable, no? Hindi natin alam kung ano ang mangyayari, no? Ano ang gagawin nila. So, children, they receive the inconsistent physical and emotional support, no? Since children are still developing their personalities and are vulnerable to external influences, they run the risk of repeating such behaviors, no? They run the risk of repeating such behaviors because they view the adult as a role model, no? Children may be exposed to aggression or violent behavior due to parents' drug use. So there is a much higher possibility of abuse or violence against these children, no? If kanang makontinue nga ang addict kay naaragid sa family, then dili siya ma-treat. Okay, next, Doc. So how addiction affects the siblings? Siblings of addicts are sometimes referred to as the invisible victims. Why? Why they are referred to as invisible victims? Because parents are too consumed by siblings with addiction problem. So nakafocus na sa siblings niya na may na-addict yung parents, no? Yung siblings nila they feel neglected because the attention of the parents are focused on the addicted one, no? Siblings of an addict person feel a variety of emotions like confusion, frustration, shame, resentment, and more, no? Confused. So why? I am a good son. I am a good daughter. Why does my parent didn't love me? So kana mga possible nga mga questions nga kanang na nasa ilahang mind, no? Then frustration, ma-frustrate sila. Then shame. ikakahiya nila yung kapatid nila na addict, ikakahiya nila kasi may tendency kasi na mabully sila, no? The resentment, magagalit sila sa kapatid nila na gumagamit ng droga. So, some siblings take the path of refusing to follow the path of their brother or sister took. So, yung iba, pinipili na hindi sundin, or others turn to drugs or alcohol as well. Why? They use them either way as a way to escape the pain or to draw some of their parents' attention back to them para ilahang attention, para ay magkuan na lang ko kay si kuya bitaw, si ate bitaw, kay pinangga kay ni mama niya, yung anak magpabadlong na lang sa kuy. So ing anak nay tendency nga ing anak og effect ang igsuon, no? Igsuon sa kanang sa usa ka drug addict, no? So next, Doc, please. So how addiction affects the parents. So parents who have a child with an addiction problem have a unique set of difficulties. No? Ngano man, why? So they may feel responsible for the path their child chose and wonder where they went wrong. So they start to question themselves, why does my child became like this? No. But parents, remember na hindi kayo ang may kasalanan, no? You did your best. It's their choice naman. It's the choice of their children or the person to use drugs. It's not yours. But hindi talaga mawala sa isip natin na ma-question talaga if ngano man, no? Ngano di ay nga ing ani, no? So it's painful to be a parent and feel powerless as you watch your child suffer. So mo ni pinakasakit, no, nga mahitabo as a parent nga magtan-aw ta nga ato ang anak mahiagom sa ginadili nga droga. Okay, next, Doc. So, financial hardship. So, no, grabe kay nig factor ning financial hardship sa usa ka family nga naay drug dependent. So, as a person's use becomes more frequent and compulsive, they often run out of financial resources to purchase their substance of abuse. So, the higher the frequency they take, the more na maubos yung pera, no? A person may lose their job due to their addiction. Kay alam naman talaga natin na bawal gyud ng mga drug addicts sa mga private or government agencies, no? Then because of that, they may use money that is meant for other things to fuel their habit, or they may steal money to do this, no? So diha makita na gid nato nga kanang mahibong na ta nga pirmi na ta mawagtangan og kwarta, no? Kanang mga things nga kanang naa sa ato ang panimalay is ibaligya na nila, ibebenta na nila, no? Then when a person is unable to provide or contribute financially for their family, it places undue amounts of stress on the partner and even children. So maglisod gyud ang pamilya kung naay usak sa membro sa ilahang pamilya nga nahiagom sa ginadili nga droga. So risk of diseases. Next please, Doc. So na-discuss na ni Doc Zen ganina. So mo na ni certain drugs of abuse like heroin and meth among others carry risk of serious and potentially deadly transmissible diseases like HIV, AIDS, and HEPA. So mo na yung mga common nga mga sakit makuha nato if mag-inject ta og substance. Next, Doc. So increased risk of abuse. So one of the most serious ways addiction affects the entire family is the higher risk of abuse. So as addiction progresses, no, people become unpredictable and difficult to deal with. They are erratic, frustrated, and angry, lashing out at those closest to them. So ang una ging maapektuhan ani is ang mga tawo nga nakapalibot sa usa ka drug addict. No? Drugs and alcohol affect an individual's inhibitions. People are more likely to act out while under the influence. If kasagaran sa kanang mga kung baga gitawag na to magmaoy, kay kanang naagid under the influence of alcohol or drugs. So, okay, so move on to the next. So, what is the role of parent in drug abuse prevention? So, unsa man di ay ang papel sa ginikanan para mapugna nato nga mahimong nga mahiagom sa ginadili nga droga ang atong mga family members. No, okay. Doc?
Ate, si Corning, gipangita mo ati dyan, ani Ma'am Janet.
So good evening. Again, we request everyone, our participants, to turn off their mic so
Ano
that
ni?
our speakers can be heard clearly. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry for the interruption. So, Doc, nawala ang slide.
Kana, ma'am?
Okay. Okay na. So, the article na-mention na po ni Doc Jazz o ni Doc Zen ganiha. So, mauna siya ang kuan ganiha. So, ato lang nang skip siguro nga part, Doc.
Ay, sa ma'am Honey, ham.
Okay, sorry. So sorry for that. Natay gamay nga technical problem pero carry ra gyud ni. Go Doc Jane.
Hello. So, it's the same. Oh.
Okay. Balik na itong first, Doc. So, power of parents. So, na ako no'y gahom ang ginikanan. So, mutuo mo, nga, parents have power. Ha? Sige, so atong tan-awon sa atong next slides if kanang kuan unsa man di ay ang gahom sa ginikanan para di mahiagom sa ginadiling droga ang atong mga anak. Sige, Doc, please. Sige, parents are powerful. So as a parent, you have a major impact on your child's decision not to use tobacco, alcohol, and drugs. So parents are the strongest influence that children have. So tinuod nga ang parents gyud ang pinaka gi-idol sa mga ginikanan mo na, and they have the strongest influence from their children. So if unsay buhaton sa adult, so usahay maka-feel ang children nga sakto guro kay gibuhat man sa adult mo na nga kinahanglan nga as early as possible mag-guide gid nato sila, no, magayra nato sila sakto matagaan nato sila sakto nga mga pamaagi, no. So parents have the glorious opportunity of being the most powerful influence above and beyond any other on the new lives that bless their home. So yeah, powerful influence gyud ang gahom sa ginikanan. Okay, Doc? So there is no guarantee that your child won't use drugs, but drug use is much likely less to happen if you, okay, dili garantisado nga di gyud mo gamit og droga ang inyong mga anak, but drug use is much likely to happen if number 1, for the first, provide guidance and clear rules about not using drugs. So dapat firm gyud ka na jud mo kanang mag-set gyud mo house rules. So for example, mulaag ko ma. So mulaag ko ma. Okay, pwede ka mulaag, but dili ka pwede mo inom, dili ka pwede manigarilyo, no? Then ing ani nga time mo uli na ka. So be clear and firm about your house rules. So next, spend time with your child. Wala pa, Doc. Sorry. So spend time with your child. Find time to do things together. So importante gyud nino nga kanang naa na mo'y kanang bonding bond ba mag strong na ang bond sa imuhang anak. So mo na nga kinahanglan nga bata pa sila, so dapat makabuild na kag strong bond sa imuhang anak, no, para inigdako nila dili na ka maglisod pag reach out sa ilaha. So unsa man ni, like if ang papa ug ang anak nga lalaki magduwa sila basketball, ang mama ug ang kanang anak nga babae if magluto sila, no, magluto sila together, no. So another tip is do not use tobacco or other drug yourself in front with them. So kani dili in as much as possible dapat dili nato pakit-on ato ang mga anak or mga bata, no, nga naggamit ka og nanigarilyo ka or nag-inom ka. So kung pwede, no, hangyo na to nga wala na lang jud untay inom, wala na lang jud untay kanang drugs, no. Mao na siya nga kanang kay kita man gud kanang gibalik nga gi-idol gid ta sa ato ang mga bata. So if mahimo kung pwede ayaw na lang jud in town, undang na lang jud in town. Kabalo naman ta sa ill effects of drugs or substance sa ato ang lawas. So dapat karon undango na gid na nato. Next slide, Doc. Nabitay nag-ali. Okay. Prevention starts when you start talking with and listening to your child, no? So dapat importante kaayo nga makig-istorya ta, no, sa ato ang mga anak. So ato from time to time atong kumustahon, kumusta man kanak, okay ra ka, wala kay gibati nga problema, kumusta man imong pag-eskwela, no, dapat makikuan ta nila, engage ta nila, no, and then maminaw pud ta nila. So nga maminaw ta nga dili pud nato sila i-judge, like musulti itong anak nga nahagbong ko, so dili ta dayon mo ingon nga nahagbong ka kay kuan mo ni mauna. So dapat we will listen to unsa man ilahang rason ngano na. So what kabaw if naapay mas deeper nga reason nganong nahitabo na sa ilang life, no. So as mga ginikanan importante gyud nga atuwa sang paminawon atong anak. And then help your child make good choices and good friends. Encourage positive friendships and interests. Kani importante kayo ni, no, nga sa bata pa lang ato ang mga anak, ato na silang tudluan unsaon di ay unsaon pagkuan og smart choices nga kanang para inikadako nila, no, dili sila mahiagom sa mga bati nga sitwasyon tungod sa ilang mga bad decisions. So encourage positive friendships and interests. Kani kinahanglan atong maila-ilahon, no, dapat talaga kilala natin yung mga kaibigan ng anak natin. So, for example, if imuingon sila nga mag-overnight ni, no, manami project buhaton. So, pwede bang jud nga ato silang sugtan. But ato silang ingon nga, o sige nak, pero next time ha, kanang dapat kanang kuani kanang ari na pud sila sa ato para makailapod mi na imong anak. So, dapat ari na pud mo diri paghimo og project. So, para pud ma-meet ninyo ang inyong mga barkada or mga amigo sa inyong anak. Sige. Next is media exposure of children should be close. Wala pa, Doc. Sorry, Doc. So media exposure of children should be closely monitored. So no, kani dapat dili man jud na kinahanglan nga ang mga private na nga messages atong tan-awon, but di ba sa Facebook na anay mga shared sa timeline. So pwede siguro na to ma-check if kumusta ang unsa ang timeline sa atong anak, okay pa ba ni ilang mga gipang share, wa ba kay usay mo dili nila masulti mo na mag-share na lang sila mga quotes or memes. So uso kay na sa Facebook karon, no, atong i-check from time to time if okay pa bang ang dagan sa ilahang timeline, kay diha na to ma-determine if naabay gibati or ato ang anak, no. Then spirituality of family members should be nurtured. So kani importante sa jud kaayo ni nga ma-enhance nato ang spiritual aspect sa ato ang panimalay, no. Karon kay virtual namang jud ang simba, so siguro naa nagay daghang time or dakong oras para kamong tanan sa imong family members kanang musimba ingana. So sa una kay kuan man to kanang katong face to face pa ang simba, so usahay na gyud tayo mga rason no nga dili ka simba kay kani busy, dili ka simba kay kani mao na. So karon nga kanang virtual na kasagaran virtual, so mas maayo gyud nga i-enhance na to atong spirituality sa through pag-attend og kanang mga mass, mga Bible sharing, mga kanang mga religious activities. Okay, next, Doc. So, learn the facts about the harmful effects of drugs. So, kanina katuna man ta nakahibalo naman ta no unsa may mga kanang unsa may mga epekto sa ato ang drugs. Baw na ta nga makadaot dining drugs sa atong utok, makadaot dining drugs makaguba dining pamilya. So I hope nga kanang kamo nga naminaw na mo karon kay i-share po ninyo sa inyong mga kailar, sa inyong mga anak nga dili na gyud kanang mogamit o magamit or magbisyo kay kabawta nga naa gyud nay dako nga epekto sa atong lawas. So maningil gyud na atong lawas no. So mo na nga kinahanglan kabawta as parents kay bawta unsay mga kanang mga epekto aning mga bisyo nato sa atong kalawasan. Be clear and consistent about family rules. Correct any wrong beliefs your child may have. So kanino consistent about family rules. So kani ginaingon na to maghimo tag family rules. So kani dapat alas 6 na uli na mo aning mga dili sad pud alas 6 kay grabe ra pud kay nakasayo. So kanang mga 8 or 9 so dapat na natatanan sa balay. So bawal manigarilyo, dapat clear gina nga bawal manigarilyo. So diri sa atong panimalay bawal manigarilyo kay makadaot na. So drink in moderation, or if naaray okasyon dili kanang adlaw-adlawon or kanang siniman na no kay makadaot gihapon na sa atong lawas. Kanang mga kuan mga kanang mga bisyo makadaot na sa atong lawas. So ingana no kanang mas maayo maghimo mo family rules no, house rules. Then correct any wrong beliefs your child may have. So nanamoy house rules niya mo na inyong anak uy ngano man lagi na si tito nag-inom, ngano man lagi na akong gig-agaw nag-inom. So you have to correct them no, you have to correct them and kanang ipahibaw nimo sa ilaha ang consequences if i-continue nga buhato na nilang kanang ing-anak nga mga kanang bisyo. Then help your child learn the importance of being a responsible individual. Kani importante kay nino nga sa bata pa lang ato ang anak dapat ato na silang tudluan og maayong pamutasan, pagiging responsableng tao no. Ato na silang tudluan ana nga kanang how it is to become a better citizen, a better person. So mo na nga kanang kinahanglan jud as kita nga kamo nga parents di ay so kita kamo lagi nga parents kay kanang sa bata pa lang ato ang anak so mo engage na tanila no, nanay kanang mga kanang makabuild na mo rapport para ini kadako sa inyong anak dili na mo maglisod to pag-reach out sa ilaha no. Then open and honest communication. So kani importante kaayo nino nga kanang honest ta sa ato ang feeling, sa ato ang gibati, sa ato ang angay isulti diri sa panimalay. Kay kasagaran man good magtago-tago. So dira mag-start ang murag kanang managdautan kanang magtago-tago na tay problema nya ato ding itago na kanang imbis unta kung ato nang i-share makatabang unta atong mama, makatabang unta atong ginikanan, pero murag atong hunahuna sa di taganahan ma-burden sila mo nang di na lang po nato i-share maabot up to the point nga ma-compromise na mong tanan dira sa family no, kay kanang di tungod sa dili na nimo kaya mangita na kag other way nga para maka-escape ani nga problem musulod na kag drugs, mag-inom na ka no. So mo na importante gid ang open and honest communication bisan unsa pa na, bisag bad news, good news, maayo or dili, dapat ato gid nang isulti sa ato ang pamilya kay kanang mga kalagot or kalain murag natural ra na sa una no. Natural man gyud na nga if natay lain nga feeling kay mala or natay makuan nga lain nga maka-disappoint sa ato is malain gyud ta, but sa una ra na nga reaction ang ang family naa gyud na para mutabang nato, no, in good times and in bad times. Okay, so next, Doc. Doc? Sorry.
Okay, sa hanihang na pod.
Okay, sorry na, Doc. Carry na. Okay, so another kuan po useful tips, no? Okay. They need to learn that doing something something they know is wrong is not a good way to fit in and feel accepted by others. So kinahanglan mahibaw-an gyud na sa atong anak nga kanang mga bati nga pamaagi ba, bati gyud na siya, no? Maybe naa ba siya benefit sa imuha or nabay benefit sa imong anak or sa ilang barkada, kung bati gani, bati gyud na siya. Dili kinahanglan nga buhaton ang bati para mo fit in. So ipa-remind gyud na sa inyong mga anak nga kanang if ing anak pabuhaton kag mga bati para ma-prove nga kanang kuan ka, mabilong ka sa among squad, o para ma-prove nga kanang ingani masud ka sa among squad, so buhatan na. So dapat inyo ging i-remind sa inyong anak nga dili gyud na pwedeng buhaton para lang ma-feel accepted sa uban, no, para lang makuan. So naay lain nga pamaagi. So teach your child different ways to say no. So tudloi inyong mga anak og kanang mga refusal skills, mga kanang yan nga how to say no in a polite manner. So, saon man if nay manghagad nila kana ato ta didto sa Luyos Arbis na mag-smoke ta didto, mag-inom ta didto. So unsaon man na, so itudoan yung anak nga firmly say no. So dili ko kanang masok ko akong mama tingaywa na ko'y balay nga ulian. So dapat anak gyud ipaklaro gyud niya sa ilaha nga naa gyud consequences nga mahitabo if nilabag sila sa inyong house rules. Kana, di ba? Klaro nga bawal manigarilyo. Klaro nga bawal mag-inom, di pwede mag-inom. So nag-inom man siya, so kabaw na sila nga naa gyud mahitabo. So masukko gyud ilang mamagpapa ana if ilan ang ilabag. So kana dapat inyo nang i-encourage inyong anak nga kanang dapat mo say no gyud ka, dili gyud ka magtando-tando. Nya if kanang or pwede pud sila mo ana nga ay dili lang ta ana dili lang ta nang mga tutag aris adto ta unahan ni magbasket lang ta didto, maka-exercise pa ta, singuton pa ta, so no ina. So ing anak bata tudluan nato atong anak nga dapat dili magsigig tando, no? Naa say time nga kanang mo dili pud ta mo no pud ta labi na kung ana nga mga butang dili gyud makaayo sa atoa. Okay, next, Doc. So what to do, no? Unsay buhaton if kanang ingana na makita nato nga mga red flags, makita ta nga naay ingana na katong sa mga gipang discuss ni Doc Zen ganiha. So makakita mo nga maka-notice mo nga uy kanang naaman ni siya ani nga mga signs na mo gyud ni sa akong anak. So unsay atong buhaton? So it is important to intervene and seek professional help. The earlier the help is sought before a substance use disorder emerges, the higher the probability your child can reverse first and fulfill a life of promise and potential, no? So dapat usta 1 or 2 signs pa lang ato ang makit-an sa ato ang kapamilya. So dapat makuan na ta ana, ma-alert na ta ana, no? So there is something wrong going on between them if ingana na, no? Nga kanang the earlier nato nga matabangan ato ang kabanay, ato ang family ingana, so the better pa nga napay bigger chance nga ma-save nato sila, ha? Muna seek professional help, please. Okay, next, Doc. So speak to a primary care physician and seek their advice on the best possible care for your child. No? So naagi mga buta nga dili nato kaya nga kinahanglan ta og tabang sa lain nga mataw, especially mga professionals. So early intervention may prevent a lifetime of unhappiness, derailed goals, unfulfilled dreams, and compromised health. So mauna siya, kinahanglan niya kanang in as early pa lang, no, makita kag mga red flags ato na nang mag-seek na tag-advice. So kasabot ta, we understand nga as a parent, no, as a parent, we don't want our child to be exposed ingana na adi siya gipamati nga ingana or ingana naka-notice na di ay ka o kanang something wrong niya sa iyang changes in his or her behavior. So nakasabot ta nga kanang maulaw or kanang mag-hesitate ta pag seek og help, no, sa kanang professionals in a face-to-face manner. So mauo to ba basin i-judge ko or basin i-judge akong anak, no, ingana. So next please, Doc. So mo na siya nga naay mga available nga mga hotlines or helplines para pwede mo dito mag-seek og advice or professional help. So diri mo ni siyang mga hotlines nga available para asa mo pwede mag-consult. So teleconsult, mga konsulta ni siya gamit ra sa telephone. Motawag ra mo. So pwede ra nga motawag ka anonymously, dili ka magpaila na mo ask kag advice. So asa man ni dapita ka pwede mo tawag. So kani the substance abuse helpline of the Department of Health. So dial ra ninyong 1550. Dira pwede mo mangayog tabang if ingana kanang naana day mo na notice nga something wrong sa inyong mga kabanay. So another Philippine Mental Health Association online support. So naay contact number o email diha nga pwede mo mangayog gihapon og tabang. So Hopeline Philippines, so naadre mo na mga available, no, the National Center for Mental Health. So dira mo na mga available nga mga teleconsult nga diha kanang pwede ra ninyo tawagan and mag-ask mo og professional help. And then if na advice nila, no, sa professional nga inyong gipangayo og tabang nga need na dayon og kanang higher intervention, no? Higher intervention ang inyong mga kabanay kay murag kanang grabe na gyud ang padungnas pagkagrabe ba ilahang pagkagumon sa ginadiling droga. So naatay mga available nga facilities, mga DOH accredited rehab centers, no? Next, Doc, please. So mo ni siya ang mga drug accredited DOH drug rehab facilities sa CDO sa Cagayan de Oro. So DOH Treatment and Rehabilitation Center CDO, it is located in Saire Highway, Cagayan de Oro, Misamis Oriental. So the phone number and contact person are indicated in the screen. So pwede ra mo manawag ani ug mag-inquire if ina unsay ilang mga kinahanglanon or unsay ilang mga kanang ingana. Then another one is the I Will Serve Foundation Incorporated. It is a non-government organization located in second floor Goodwill Building, Rizal Street, Barangay 1, Cagayan de Oro, Misamis Oriental. So again, contact number and the contact person are indicated there in the screen. Next, Doc. So sige, maupod niya mga drug rehab, accredited DOH drug rehab facilities in Cebu. So the first is our center, the DOH Treatment and Rehabilitation Center, Cebu City. So among cater is mga all-female drug dependent. So we are located at Hagubiao, Mandaue City, sa Eversley Child Sanitarium Compound in Mandaue. So contact number and contact person are indicated there. So our contact person is our Chief of Hospital, no, Dr. Jasmine T. Peralta. Next, please, Doc. So Another one is DOH TRC Argao. So if kami diri sa TRC Cebu kay mga female ang amo ang indicator, kani pud ang Argao is mga male. So they are located at Candabong Binlod, Argao, Cebu. So telephone number and contact person na gihapon sa screen. So contact person is Dr. David Baron, the Chief of Hospital of TRC Argao. Next, Doc. So another DOH drug accredited we have is the Safe Haven Addiction Treatment and Recovery Village located in Talamban, Cebu City. So muna siya ang mga contact numbers and contact person. So next is House of Hope, no, and non-government organization po ni located in Gunob, Lapu-Lapu City. So email address and telephone contact person are available. The next is Neo-Zoe Drug and Alcohol Rehabilitation Center. So it is located in Ibabaw Estancia, Mandawi City. So naagya po na may telephone number or contact person niya. Pwede ninyong pangayuan o mga information. So the last is the Roads and Bridges to Recovery Drug Treatment and Rehabilitation Center located in Upper Malibu Beach Street, Subang Dako, Mandawi City. So naay telephone number dira nga naka-indicate, gihapon, email, and the contact person. Dr. Benita Santa Ana Ponio, the Executive Director. So I'm ending my lecture now with the famous quote, prevention is better than cure. Kay tinuod gyud no nga mas labing maayo nga ato ang ma-prevent kaysa dili na tas magtambal. Mas lisod na, mas hassle, no, daghan og kanang kuan if kanang ari na tas magtambal. So mo na maayo nga mas maayo nga sa sayo pa lang atoan na ma-prevent. Next, Doc. So families are the compass that guides us. They are the inspiration to reach great heights and our comfort when we occasionally falter. So no, dili gyud na all the time na kanang happy lang ang family. So naagi na yung usahay, naagi na yung mga breakdowns niya. Napuy, ang importante is na breakthrough. So no, kanang mo na nga importante gyud nga atong alagaan ang atong pamilya kay sila ra gyud na ang musuporta nato nga way daghang kuskus balungos. No buts, no what ifs, I love you diretso, no? Mauna ang family. Sila gyud ang musapupo nato gikan sa atong pagkabata hangtod sa atong last breath. So take care of your family and love them, no, unconditionally also. So daghang salamat kayo. I hope nga amoy nakatunan sa ato ang lecture karong gabi una. Ma Mary.
So thank you for that, Ma'am, for that presentation, Ma'am Daphne. So we now know the importance or the important role of each family members play in drug abuse prevention. And also, I think the contact list presented were very helpful for our participants in case they need it for referral. Okay, so before we proceed, we would like to inform everyone that there will be an evaluation form through a Google link posted in the chat box. So we request everyone to please answer the evaluation form before leaving the meeting. So, and now let's proceed with the question and answer. So thank you, Doc Zen and Ma'am Daph again. So at this point, our speakers are open to answer some questions. So if someone from our participant has a question, so please open your mic or you can write your question at the chat box and I can or I will read it for you. Okay. So hello, good evening. Sorry.
Hagilis.
Bailo.
So also, we would like to remind everyone to please mute your mic if ever you are not going to ask a question, so that we can entertain some participants that are or have some questions for our speakers? So, is there anyone from our participants who would like to ask some question? Okay. So you can also write it in the chat box so we can read it. Okay, so I think Doc Jane. I think no one from our participants wanted to ask a question.
Kuya Ray or Ate Lucy, do you have any questions? Or anyone from the Verbum Dei CDO?
No, I think everything is clear. I think everything is clear, and yeah, it's just the information is just so overwhelming. So give us time to process. So, but everything is clear. Everything is okay. Everything has been laid out like perfectly, and the presentation is very well organized and presented. So thank you very much.
So thank you, sir, for that feedback regarding the presentation. So I think we can move on to here.
Mary, sorry, Mary.
Sorry,
I
Doc.
just have one
Hello,
thing to
Doc.
add. Sorry,
Doc.
just want to add that CDAF has presented the available rehab facilities in CDO and Cebu, but I'd like to inform the body that, or the participants here in tonight's advocacy program, that we are now having the community-based rehab programs for mild cases of drug use, so that you can avail that particular services in the local government units. And we also have the outpatient facilities for moderate cases of drug dependency. So, meron na po available po sa mga local government units to the Anti-Drug Abuse Council or the local drug abuse program po sa mga LGU. So, yun po. So, hindi lang po ilalagay agad sa residential facility or inpatient facility. Meron pong outpatient and community-based rehab program. Ayun po. Thank you.
I have a question regarding that point, ma'am. How many
Yes, sir.
times can a drug dependent avail of these government services? May quota ho ba? Yun lang. Pwede ba pag ilang beses ako
Depende.
pabalik-balik?
Opo, yes po, sir. Opo. Depende po yon sa kung may court order po siya, especially kung plea bargainers. Yung mga plea bargain persons deprived of liberty, nakalagay po sa policy po, guidance po ng dangerous drugs po, dapat isang beses ka lang mag-plea bargain. So kung meron kang court order to be rehabilitated in a rehab facility, dapat hindi ka na babalik. Kasi ang kaso mo was Section 11, kasi Section 15 yung gumamit ka. Meron Section 11, Section 5 kung may possession, and also nag-sell. So kung nag-avail ka ng plea bargain, dapat hindi ka na uulit. So one time lang dapat. But for us as a health facility, we all know that drug abuse or drug addiction is a disease. So we actually, alam natin, relapse is part of the process. So when they do again the drugs, we still accommodate the admission or the treatment for the patient or the client. Ayun. Thank you.
Thank you po. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Doc Jazz, for that additional information, Doc. So may I ask again if there is anyone who wanted to ask questions for our speakers?
There is a question on the chat box. It's from Adonis and Joy from Cebu. Based on your
Okay, sir.
experience, what is the recovery rate from drug addiction? That is the question.
So, yes, sir. So may I ask someone from our speakers, so Doc Zen or Ma'am Daf, who can answer that question? Or
I mean, I think the question is, has anyone recovered from drug addiction? And if yes, what is the recovery rate? Is it 50%, 60%,
Uh,
40%?
If I may answer that one, based on our statistics in our center, actually in that when I was with the program in the central office of the Department of Health, there's actually an 80 to 90% recovery. Actually, the what do you call this, the program completion, or yung hindi na sila babalik. But again, kahit matagal na siyang naging sober and clean, there will always be a possibility that he will have a slip or he will relapse, because relapse is indeed part of the process. So anytime, pwede siya ulit na tumikim. Simple lang yung Coca-Cola, di ba? Yung Coke, gusto mo talagang uminom, kahit ayaw mo, pag nakita mo gusto mo siya, titikim ka. So it's actually part of the process ng disease. So para siyang diabetes, nandiyan na talaga siya. So importante lang mag-guide na hindi talaga siya bumalik sa dati niyang bisyo. So but for our patients in a group of 10, there will be actually two patients who will be going into relapse. So it's about 80 to 90% yung recovery, na complete ang recovery. But again, there will always be people will be having relapse. Hindi talaga siya 100%. So that's part of the process. Thank you. Kasi nga, it has to be each individual patient is really unique in their own way. So we cannot really predict who among them, kahit 10 taon na siya o 20 years na siyang sober, may time pa rin na anytime na nag-trigger, nagka-problema, pwede siyang bumalik. So dapat constant talaga na continuum of care, tuloy-tuloy talaga yung tulong sa kanila. Okay, thank you.
Thank you po, Doc. I hope, Adonis, I hope that answers your question. Thank you. Any more questions? Yeah.
So anyone who want to ask questions? I think mauna to siya, no? So Doc Jane, shall we proceed, Doc, for the message, Doc?
I think certificate, ma'am.
Yes, Doc.
Uh-uh.
Okay. So thank you for that additional info and information and answering the question again, Doc Jess, and for our participants who asked questions, we hope that we answered your questions. Yes. So at this juncture, let us hear the message of the local responsible of the Verbum Day Missionary Family Mindanao, Mr. Remedyo Rama. A virtual round of applause, please. Good evening, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. This opportunity that you give to each one of us. No, it's a very beautiful and well explained information, and I'm very thankful also for your advocacy. No, it's a very difficult advocacy, the very difficult work, but I saw your faces that you are happy with your passion, no, of your vocation to help our drug dependent brothers and sisters. And for me personally, no, it is well said, and it is also a challenge for us parents to help, no, to build a healthy family in order for us to help also to enlighten your work, no, at least magaanan ang inyong trabaho. So karon, it's a challenge for all the parents who attended this webinar. We will start, no, kay na-touch kay ko at the beginning of the information, no, the spares. No, it is a very challenge for the parents because all this reality is almost happening, and that is why the drug abuse is increasing. And then, no, it's a challenge. One is a challenge for us as parents to our children, and for us also with my wife. No, it is an additional percentage for what we are doing now. to maybe it's is to add no to perfect as parents to our journey to guide our children. And we will appreciate also no the time that she gave to us. She did not leave along the way in our formation in this webinar. Our chief of hospital 2, no other than Dr. Jasmine Peralta, medical doctor MPHDP CAM. Thank you, Doc Jas, for your time you give to us. Your presence no encourages us also to live our passion as parents. And secondly, no, we will give the certificate of appreciation to our speakers. First, we will present Dr. Sinaida E. Damron for an amazing talk on drug abuse prevention on family members, given this 5th day of September 2021. So, this certificate, no, amo lang yan ipadala no, through Doc Jane. And then, we will also appreciate the certificate of appreciation is presented to Miss Daphne Camille Gitgano Alimpoos, registered social worker. I don't know if Ma'am Camille, yeah, remember us, no? We are neighbors in Paknaan.
Yeah.
Paknaan, Mandawi, no? I really recognize even if you have that. So I remember. Thank you, Ma'am Dap, your beautiful no reminder for the parents.
Thank you, sir.
This certificate is given this 5th day of September.
Happy to see you, Daphne.
Yes.
Gamay pa kani si Ma'am Dap. Nakaroon, no? She helped a lot. And then also the certificate of appreciation for the Department of Health, Treatment and Rehabilitation Center, Cebu City, no? For conducting this webinar. For the members of the Verbum Day community in Cagayan de Oro and Cebu City, given this 5th day of September 2021. And also to the Committee on Advocacy and Education, DOH-TRZ, Cebu City.
Thank you.
The last but not the least, who organize, no, invite this Community Verbum Day, this webinar on drug abuse and prevention, no other than Dr. Jane is Giselle. Doc, thank you, Doc.
Salamat, Doc.
Thank you, Kuya. And Ate.
No, in behalf of Verbum Day community, no, we are very thankful of your time. No, today, this is very special night for us. No, to learn how to guide our children. And thank you also for your advocacy. We can see in your faces that you are happy, and no, your beautiful faces, your happy faces says that how beautiful also is your heart. No, that taking care our brothers and sisters who are the victims, no, and then it's a challenge to each one of us, and we pray that this webinar, and I know it can help us very much, no, to take care of our family and our children. And thank you very much, Doc Jas, Doc Jasel, and to our speakers, and also to our MC, Ma'am Mary Antoinette. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thank you, sir and ma'am. Thank you for that encouraging words. So we sincerely appreciate it, sir and ma'am, in this challenging time. So rest assured that we will continue to the best of our ability to serve the Filipino who are a victim of drugs. So It is indeed a difficult time, but we will overcome. So a certificate also of participation will be awarded to Verbum Day Family CDO and Verbum Day Family Cebu, so prepared by our center. Unfortunately, ma'am and sir, so we haven't prepared the soft copy yet, but it will be emailed, it will be sent via email to you. So thank you again. So moving on, to give us the closing remark, a virtual round of applause to one of the medical officer and the chairman of the Advocacy and Education Committee of DOH PRC Cebu, Dr. Jane Giselle.
Okay, thank you,
Good
Ma'am
evening,
Mary.
Doc.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. Good evening, my Verbum Day family, no, in Cebu and CDO. So thank you so much for saying yes to present this webinar, no, to our big family. And I'm so happy that finally we were able to reach the level of the family, no, because we really see how important the role of the family is, no, in preventing drug addiction. And listening to all the lectures, no, of both the speakers, I realized, no, it's not really easy to be a mother or to be a father, no, because because you have a great and a big and irreplaceable role as parents, no, in the lives of your children, because you can either break or create them. And I believe that the bottom line here really is to let your children know that they are loved, because the common scenario, di ba, among the parents, no, they would say I love my children and that's why I work for long hours, or I love my family so much, that's why I need to go abroad, no, as what Doc Sen had mentioned a while ago, no, they that's why they go, no, very far, because they thought that it's their way of showing them how much they love their children or their family. No, but sometimes that is not how our children would see it. No, they don't see it as love, but they see it as neglect or abandonment, or they see it otherwise. So walang, no, like for me, what I learned is like for us, for you parents, I'm not a parent, no, for you parents, no, to make known to your children how much you love them, no, and not only through words, but also through actions, no, and sometimes the actions can be the simple ones, no, like spending time with them, eating meals with them, no, together with your children, chika chika at the end of the day, how their day has been, no, I mean, yeah, like I think very simple. No, I think these are the simple things that they need, and which we thought is which we neglect ba, or which you neglect as parents, no, because you thought that what your children are needing are the big things, no, the expensive cell phone, the I don't know, no, whatever, no. So actually, they only need very little things, no, and that little thing called love is already big enough for them, no? And that love is they need to see that in different forms, no, as I've said, no, not only through words but in many things, no, especially if you know the love language, no, so you also need to know the love language of your children, no, and also children need to know the love language of your parents, so that you will know how to show your love to them in a way that will really hit them, no, because sometimes like we think they need things, but actually they just need your time or your presence, no, so it depends on the love language of the person that you love. Okay, so so it is really a challenge, no, as parents, no, on how you're gonna parent your children, on how you're gonna upbring them, no, so bring them up. So yeah, so but then I believe that with practice and with proper skills and with things like this, no, that we showed to you, no, like we were teaching you how to prevent drug addiction, how to properly raise your children, I think these kind of things will really help you. And also I believe that if we put God in the midst of our family, no challenge would be too big for any family to handle, no? So I think that is really the number one ingredient that we have, because we cannot love our children the way they want to be loved if we don't have that love coming from the source, no, from the very source. Okay, so yeah, that's my message for you tonight. I hope you learned a lot, no, from our kanang lectures and from our speakers. And I would like to thank yeah, the Family Verbum Day CDO, Family Verbum Day Cebu, and also I would like to acknowledge and thank the presence of one couple coming from Costa Rica and coming from Spain. So thank you so much. And thank you also to our DOH TRC family, especially to our Chief of Hospital, no, Dr. Jasmine Peralta, is very supportive, no, who really joined us here from beginning to end, no, and also Ma'am Mary, Ma'am Daphne, Doc Zen, and to all the members of our advocacy team. So thank you so much for the effort, guys, and for making all this possible. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you, Doc Jane. Yes, indeed, little things matters. So our program has come to an end. So again, thank you for our participants, the Verbum Day Missionary CDO and Cebu, as
Sorry.
well as their members.
Ano lang,
Sorry, Doc.
sorry, Dr.
Hello,
Jane,
Doc.
maybe we can have a photo, group photo. You can get a picture.
Yes,
Can
Doc.
everyone please turn on your camera para po makita lahat so we can have
Yes,
a
Doc.
photo ops. Thank you.
So before leaving, may we request everyone to please turn on their cameras for photo documentation.
Okay.
Christian, buksan mo yung camera.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, next window. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, we're done.
Thank you.
Thank
Again,
you.
God bless everyone. Thank you.